What's up, everybody? I'm Scott.
And I'm Jason.
And you're listening to Liquid Carnage. My friend, we are here. We are in July.
I know. And my favorite holiday is coming up.
Yes.
So you know what that means.
Thomas Jefferson, the Patriot, Independence Day.
I don't know. I normally don't watch Independence Day. Maybe I should, but I usually keep it to more into revolutionary times.
Yeah.
I normally keep to more revolutionary times. So, but yeah, you definitely got it right. Patriot and Thomas Jefferson will be watched. So
that's right.
I'm coming up on like 23 years or 26 years or something doing this. So
wow,
I think the original time it came out was like 1996 or 97, and I've watched it every year since then.
That's amazing.
Yeah, dude, I'm getting to be like crazy like that.
Yeah, it's your OCD. I get it. I am on the clock for Jaws, the shark, and the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. My 4th of July traditions.
Yes. Yes, so, we talked about these traditions a couple times in previous podcasts, but when you get into year 5, it's always a nice little reminder. Oh gosh, 4th of July is coming. We got our little traditions coming.
Yeah. Plus this year, because of the pandemic and everything, we have a little bit of bonus going on here. Basketball, which would have normally wrapped up around Father's Day, is about to start the NBA Finals. This comes out on Thursday. I believe Game 1 will be 1 week from today. And as we're recording this on Monday, our Phoenix Suns are going into Game 5 against the Clippers. And hopefully we have this wrapped up and we're resting, waiting for Game 1 of the Finals.
Yeah, I mean, it's very possible that by the time this gets released, the Suns, whether it's tonight or whether it's Wednesday night, would already have won the Western Conference Finals and are just waiting.
Let's not let it get to Friday is what I'm trying to say.
We do not want to get to a Game 7, dude. We do not want to get to a Game 7.
I agree.
Anything's possible at that point.
Yeah, but it's a wild time of year. It's certainly the summer heat is starting to kick in. It's crazy. Janice and I were talking over the weekend. This is our last week with no children around for a while. Her oldest daughter comes back next week from being spending the first half of the summer with her dad. And so we have basically until Saturday to do whatever we want to do. And we got to thinking, well, let's go see a movie. Because I haven't seen a movie since Bad Boys 3 in the movie theater. So it's been literally a year and a half now since I've been to one.
That's okay.
And it's not because I'm afraid of the pandemic or whatever else. It's just literally nothing's really come out that I've wanted to see that they haven't streamed at the same time.
Right.
And also, I've basically forgotten about going to movie theaters at this point because it's been so long. So we decided, let's go see F9, the Fast and the Furious movie saga, whatever they're calling it, bar and grill. We haven't seen it yet. As of this recording, we haven't seen it yet. But Saturday night, after the Suns' victory, we decided, well, let's watch a movie. Let's watch F8, The Fate of the Furious, just to get refreshed of what happened in that series. And I know you're not a fan of the series.
I've seen one of the movies, so I am a little out of touch with the premises. But
this premise is a lot. Now, it's a saga that started 20 years ago about street racing and drug running on the streets of Los Angeles. To now, they have evolved from that to being international spies doing the dirty work for 3-letter agencies for the government.
Wow. See, you just stick with it long enough and you go from bad to good.
I'm not even sure it's going from bad to good. I think it's going from good to bad. But you get to a certain point, I believe, it's like The Walking Dead. Even though it's still going on, and that's going into its final season too, I've stuck it out this long. I need to see how this shit show ends because I have invested my time and now I want to see the payoff.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny that you just said that, Scott, because I had an experience this weekend that got me thinking about our programming. Like, logically, we know that something is not probably worthy of our time and energies, but our programming just says we have to continue. Like just like you said, I've seen the first 8. I have got to see the next 2, even if I don't really want to see the next 2. It's like your programming just says I've got to see them, even though logically I don't have like an affection to this series. You have to watch it.
Yeah, it really is. Like I remember this when I saw this in the theaters, probably back in 2018 or 19. I forget when it came out. I've only seen this movie once. I saw it in the theaters with our buddy JP. And I remember we saw it a late night on a Saturday, and it was probably about midnight when the big final scene, like fight scene, was Jason Statham skydiving onto a plane to rescue Vin Diesel's newly discovered baby and protecting the baby in a gunfight in a plane where multiple shots are fired and the plane never loses pressure and the baby never gets shot. And I looked at him saying, this has now jumped the shark. Again. Again.
Yeah. I'm with you, man.
And yet, here we are.
Yep.
Waiting to go see F9 because there's nothing else here in the theaters that it's worth paying money to see. Not that this is worth paying money to see, but you're right. Come this far. Yeah. I've seen the previous 8 movies in the theaters. I even saw Hobbs and Shaw in the theater.
Oh, I guess gosh, that's the spinoff, right? That was a spinoff?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Which I forgot in the middle of this whole movie of watching F8, Janice looked at me and said, wait, they can't kill Jason Statham because he has a spinoff with The Rock that comes out after this. Like, that's touche.
Time travel, baby.
That's time travel. Time travel.
There.
You know how it is.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to it. It'll be fun. We know it's going to be stupid, and we can just turn our brains off for right now, which is fine, which is all we really want to do. But it's one of those, like, come on, man. Like, I'm here because I've come this far. Let's see it to the end. Even if it's painful, let's just see it to the end.
So here's what happened to me this weekend. So it's been hot down in Phoenix. So I was in our pool. I was just kind of sitting on one of those little air mattresses, kind of just sitting back, floating around, getting some sun. And I caught out of the glimpse of the side of my eye, I saw this little bee in my pool struggling. It was still alive and it was struggling to survive, right? Struggling to survive. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to be a good Samaritan today. I don't like bees that much, but I'm going to be a good Samaritan. So I kind of swam slowly over to the bee, and I cupped the bee under the water. And then I just flicked the water and the bee onto the pavers on the side of the pool. So I'm thinking, I just did a good thing, right? I just saved this bee. So I decide, well, I'm not doing anything else anyways right now except just chilling on the pool. I'm going to watch this bee and make sure it flies away. And this bee started walking around and didn't really fly away, but you could tell he was kind of just shaking his wings and trying to get, back oriented to flying again. He walks over to the edge and jumps right back into the pool.
So was it a bee or a wasp?
It was a bee. It was definitely a bee. It was a yellow and black bumblebee.
And it walked from the cement back into the pool.
It went from the pavers and just kind of went to the edge and then just popped it back in the water.
Is it possible that bee was just chilling, getting a drink of water, and you fucked up its day?
Oh, I didn't even think about that. That is really a good question. That this might have been I was messing with his mojo.
Yeah, but, maybe you saved a life. Maybe the bee was suicidal. I don't know. We don't know. We can't speak Beanese. But
let's just assume for a second that bees don't normally want to be in a pool of water.
Uh-huh.
Right? Like normally they want to be flying around getting pollen going back to the hive. So if we make that assumption, because you're right, I could be assuming that, hey, he was just sunbathing himself, getting a little cool off from the hot weather. But if we assume that no, our instinct is to survive, it got me wondering, why would the bee jump back in the water to die, basically?
Maybe it had enough, man. Maybe it lost its sting. Isn't it bees that get to mate one time, then they go off and they die?
I don't know. I know bees are the ones where they only get one sting, and if they lose their stinger, they die.
Well, maybe he lost his stinger because he stung somebody, or maybe it fell off and he knew his time was limited.
Maybe so. But it got me thinking because, how often do we say in life, logically, we know that we've had it on this show where we've talked to people who are in bad relationships, and that you just need to get away from this person, but you don't. Or, I know that smoking's bad for me, but I smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day.
Yeah. My job is not where I should be, but I'm here because of a weird, toxic. Yeah. I get it.
Yeah. That, like, I should leave this job, but I'm going to stay with it through thick and thin. And for whatever reason, it just struck me like, why do we do that? Like, why do we, when we know something's bad for us, why do we continue to try to do it?
Well, first off, when it comes to cigarettes, I think it's a lot to do with addiction. Uh, but when you start talking about, like relationships or jobs or just different situations, some people just don't handle change very well. So they have to, once they get used to a situation, good, bad, or indifferent, they just stay. Like, that's it. This is where I'm at. This is what I'm supposed to be. I have to deal with it. And they don't realize they can do better.
Oh, so maybe that's what the, yeah, I mean, that probably makes sense. It's like, well, it's a better job than being unemployed, and I might as well just stick with it.
Oh yeah, I've got a friend like that too. That's in a situation. He's in a less than an ideal situation at work. It's been stuck like that for a while. He's trying to get out, but you can't get out until the right opportunity arrives. So it might look like he's just staying in it, but at the same point, you just can't jump ship to jump ship. You have to make sure it's the right move for you.
Have you ever just quit your job and just said, screw it, I'm going to just quit and whatever happens, happens?
No, I'm not wired that way.
I'm not wired that way either. I've never done that. I've never just quit a job and not had something to go to, or like, I never.
Yeah. No, I've been laid off. You might remember the Summer of Scott, summer of 2009.
Yeah, I'm so jealous of you, dude. I had a chance to get Summer of Jason back in 2020, and I had a job within 3 weeks and never got Summer of Jason.
It sucks being good at what you do and responsible.
Maybe.
But it's one thing when you get dismissed on that level, but to just up and leave without a backup plan, I mean, I'm not wired like that. I don't think I could ever do that. And if Janice ever said, hey, I've achieved this, I'm making this as a job, you don't have to work anymore, I would still work because I can't not work.
Oh, I see.
Mm-hmm. I have to have something to do to keep me busy. Otherwise, I would go crazy.
Well, and let's be honest. I mean, how bad would your job have to be for you to quit your job, or how miserable would you have to be to quit your job?
That's the other thing too. I would have to be knocking on death's door from stress and a heart attack for me to say, you know what, fuck it, it's not worth it. Now, Our EP Tom, on the other hand, I have been led to believe through our conversations with him over the years that if someone in any of his organizations that he's worked for, as much as look at him funny on a random Wednesday, he takes that as a sign to say, fuck off, I'm out, and he bails.
Boy, wouldn't that be awesome to have that kind of freedom?
Yeah.
That just sounds awesome to me.
Yeah. No, in fairness,
also talk to the executive producer, because that sounds pretty awesome to me.
Now, in fairness, though, he doesn't bail just to bail. He lines up other opportunities and starts researching other opportunities. I don't want to sell him out right there. Sounds like a dickish thing, but he doesn't just say, fuck you, I'm out. He takes that as his sign to start looking for the next adventure.
Well, I mean, I think I know for myself that I've stayed in relationships longer than I probably should have. And, and when someone asks me, well, why are you still with them? I don't know. And that happens, right? I mean, but I don't understand why it's not more of a protection of life, right? I mean, we want to protect ourselves, protect our lives, like this bee. Okay, at some point you want to survive, right? So you would think, well, okay, I'm going to do anything I can to avoid death. And yet it didn't happen that way. I'm wondering with relationships if that's the way it is. We want to avoid misery, but we also don't want to be alone, or we don't want to take rejection, or we don't, whatever else is driving us to throw away our logic and just go anti-logic.
Some people just can't be alone, and they'd rather stay in a relationship than go out and do what they want, when they want, how they want, with who they want. They feel like it's better because this person's here. They say they love me, so I'll be miserable because they say they love me, versus going out and actually finding someone that does love you.
I'm trying to think in my adult life. I think that I was only away from being in a relationship the longest, like a year and a half. Wow. In my adult life. So I think about it, it's like, for most part, I've been either in a relationship or the breakup has been such a short amount of time before the next relationship that I don't really feel like I've been single that long.
Yes, for me, it's kind of been the other way around. Like I've had relationships, but I feel like I've been single more than I've actually been in a relationship. So I'm fine on my own.
Okay.
And it doesn't bother me a bit if and this is a lesson I learned from you way back in the day. I remember arguing about this in the Cracker Barrel years ago. That if you don't like me, it's cool. There's 3.5 billion other women on this planet.
Yeah, I did say that.
I will find somebody else.
I will find somebody. Yep, I did say that. Wow. Logically, it makes a lot of sense, right? Logically, it makes total sense. There's 3.5 billion women. I think I'll find someone else.
Logic versus heart are two different things, though.
Logic versus heart, and that's exactly it. Because once you do find that right person, the 3.5 billion number seems to just flitter away.
Right.
It's like there's no one else. There's one person, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And that's something that you have to learn, though. But you have to learn about yourself, and your partner has to learn about themselves. And a lot of that misery comes from the fact that someone doesn't love themselves enough to adapt to that relationship, or you don't love yourself enough to want better for yourself in that job.
And how many times have we seen it where someone acts differently when they get with someone and they start to act differently than who they were before they were with someone?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're just different people. It's like, well, wait a minute. So which one are you? Are you the person that you were with when you were single, or are you the person that you are when you're with a couple? And is it possible that maybe we all have two different sides of us? Like what I do as a single person is different than what I do in a couple relationship?
Are you implying like everyone's got a certain Jekyll Hyde personality?
I'm thinking it because I know that when like, for perfect example, when Noreen is here, and I have no qualms about I don't think about doing much of anything unless I'm going to be able to do something with her, whether we go to dinner or a show or whatever. Sometimes she goes away for a couple days. I instantly start thinking, maybe I'll go play some poker at a casino. Maybe I'll go to a movie by myself. Maybe I'll do all these things by myself. Yeah. And it's like, I would never think of doing that if she was here. Like if she was here, I would never say, hey, I'm going to go play poker for 3 hours. Yeah, I just never would. So I guess I have a Jekyll and Hyde too.
Well, I think that's, in that case, you're absolutely right. Because that's time playing poker that you could be spending with her. And that's different.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And it's got, there's different layers to it. Because, now that Janice is going back to school, there's a lot of times she's like, hey, I have to go finish this class. I got to go take this test. So I'm going to go here. And I'll be in the room if you need me. And if we have the girls, man, I'll hang out with the girls. I'll go do whatever with them. I'll keep them busy. But,
right.
If the girls are at their dad's house and she's doing that, it's like, well, cool. What am I going to do now? Like, I could go to Chili's, have a couple beers. I do that anyway, you know, and she, sometimes begrudgingly comes along too, but I'm way more social than she is. Or I've got my own stuff to go do. And I guess for me, my life doesn't really change a lot one way or the other. It's either we're going to go do this stuff together or we're going to hang out at home. Or if you've got school, I can be an independent person myself.
Well, I remember that was one of the things that and I don't know if I ever told you this or whatever, but I knew that was always one of the things that I saw in you when you were kind of in single mode, is the Scott that we saw out and having fun and being out there and having a good time and, having a few drinks and being really social and out there was a lot different than the Scott of what he really wanted, which was, I just want someone like come home at the end of the day after a long day at work. We talk, we watch TV, we cuddle or whatever. And so I always remember thinking that the Scott that's out there having a social life is a lot different than the Scott would be in a relationship life, because he wants to just be settled. He wants, I want a settled life. I want to have a life where I don't feel like I have to party all the time or put a face on all the time. I just want to have someone I can talk to,
Yeah. And that's what it's the balance of life that everyone has to go through. It's
right.
Trying to find out like what you're willing to do to make yourself happy. And some people are perfectly happy being perfectly unhappy. And whether it be relationships or jobs, they need something to complain about. And those situations that they're in provide them enough material to keep them going day in and day out. They are the Eeyores of the world if this was Winnie the Pooh.
And maybe that comes back to the point of there is not one way to live life, because what works for me doesn't work for someone else.
Exactly. And
You know?
there are 7 billion people on this planet, which means there are 7 billion different ways to live this life.
And frankly, let's be honest, if there was another bee in the pool, maybe that bee would have been thankful and said, "Hey, I appreciate you, buddy." Bzz, it
Right.
flew away. So I just got the one bee that didn't get two shits. Now, you know what was the sad part?
What's that?
I didn't go back again to try to save him. I just said, "Hey, if you're that dumb, I'm done with you. I'm done. Die." And
Well, again,
that's
that goes
pretty
back.
sick, man. That's pretty sick.
That goes
That's a
back
pretty
to,
sick
didn't you
comment.
learn? Maybe you learned your lesson that this bee has its own agenda. This bee wants to do his own thing, and maybe it doesn't want you interfering with whatever it's going to do. Nature always finds a way of getting what it wants.
Oh, I mean, not to get sad or anything, but you hear about these stories of these parents that deal with a child that's on drugs,
Uh-huh.
and they go back and try to save, and then they get a little bit better, and then they go back on the off the wagon, and then the parents have to come in, and it's got to be a drain to deal with something like that, where you just can't just say, you know what, done, I'm done,
Yeah.
because as a parent, most of the time you try to help your kid, but
Well,
once
as a
again,
parent, you want your kid to be more successful than you, and you want to give them every opportunity to be more successful than you. But those kids have to want to help themselves, and it takes a parent their own strength to realize, oh shit, I need to be better about this.
yeah, you need to find a balance.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times have we had that situation where when like I'm talking to a friend about their relationship, and they're complaining, or oh, she does this, or he does this, but then when they get back into it, they don't say anything, or they don't do anything about it, and it's almost like, well, so obviously you just need to vent. You don't need to really change anything. You just need to vent.
Yeah.
And it does get kind of, well, do you want to fix it, or do you want to just keep going?
What are you looking for here? Tell me what you need from me. Do you need me to help you fix it, or do you just want to vent?
And you and I have had this discussion too. How many times do we offer advice that they never take before you stop offering advice?
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, you obviously have a pulse on this that I don't, so have at it.
Well,
Go for it.
My rule of 2 goes across a lot of different levels of humanity in life. And for those that don't know, my rule of 2 is, like, I will invite you out twice. If you decline both times, it's not my responsibility to invite you out anymore. I don't have to call or do anything. If you want to hang out, you let me know on any level.
Right.
And the same goes with advice. Hey, man, you want some advice? Here's what I would do. You asked, I said. After 2 times, if you're going to keep asking but not take me up on my advice, I'm not going to offer it anymore. You go do you. You do what makes you happy.
Yeah, but then they get upset when you're like, well, how come you don't talk to me anymore? How come you never invite me to do anything else again? What do you say to them?
Well, at that point, it's like, hey, the phone goes both ways. If it's like, I've reached out and you've declined both times. I understand life gets in the way, but I've tried. You let me know your schedule and what you want to do, and I'll see if I can make it.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. Yeah.
Or you let me know when you want to talk, and I'll see if I got the time to figure it out.
I don't know. Sometimes too, I think that when it comes to advice like that, sometimes people just want to vent. Sometimes they just do really want to vent. They don't want advice. They don't want to, they just want to vent the frustration, but nothing more.
Well,
it's hard
fine.
for me to find that balance. It's hard for me when someone says, "Oh, my life's horrible and my boyfriend is so mean to me and he treats me like crap and I think he's cheating on me." And it's hard for me to say, why are you with him then? I don't understand. He obviously doesn't seem to value you as much as you value him. So why are you still with him? And I love him. Okay.
Okay. Well, hell, love conquers all, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Learning to accept that other people will live their life no matter what, however they want, is one of the hardest lessons we will have to learn as humans. Because no matter how much we want to try to help, or no matter how much we think we're helping, people will always do what they want to do at the end of the day. Life is a choice.
Life is a choice.
Everything you do is a choice. If you choose to take that advice,
yeah,
good. If you choose to ignore it, fine.
Have you ever met someone who had a gambling problem?
No.
I had a coworker who his wife was the one that had the gambling problem, and I met them as a couple, and she seemed like the nicest lady in the world, but she had a gambling problem, and they were like hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt for this gambling problem. And every time the topic came up, you could just tell she knows but can't do anything about it, like, or didn't want to do anything about it. Like, she knew it was a problem, but didn't have whatever it took to get her past the problem. And it's sad when they know that what they're doing is hurtful to them and they can't get off that. It's sad.
And that's and
I think it's
that's,
like drugs. It's probably like any addiction, right? Any addiction. It's sad because they know at some level that it's not good for them, but they can't get through it. They can't get away from it.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest struggles in life, and one of the biggest things that someone has to conquer on their own. It's those personal demons, whether it be substance abuse or gambling, or just being a serial relationship person or a serial single person. It's you have to identify what your issues are and how you want to attack those and handle those to the best of your abilities.
Yeah, I mean, I know that I'm not the type of person that could do what our friend Austin's doing, where he's traveling and just working for a few months and traveling to the next spot. I couldn't do that. That's not my interest. But there is a part of me that is very envious of someone who has the ability to look at their lives and say, I want to do this, and be okay with it. Well, I mean, it's kind of fascinating to me.
When you look back and hindsight always being 2020, I see these things on Facebook or the internet. It's like, hey, if you could go back to 18-year-old you and say 5 words, and only five words, what would those words be? It makes you think, like, shit, man. I like the path I'm on. I like what I'm doing, but if I could go back and do things a little bit differently, wouldn't you?
Oh, probably. Now that I know what I know now, yeah, I probably wouldn't have stressed so much about getting right into a career.
It's funny. We talk about this today, and I look back to my very first real, quote unquote, real job out of college, and working for a company both you and I worked for back in the day at separate times.
Yep.
And the owner of the company at the time then was my age now, 40 years old. And he looked at me dead in the eye and said, I don't know why you graduated so early. If I knew then what I know now, I would have stayed forever. I would have, if I could take the money I have now and go back to that age with everything I know now, I would do things so much differently.
Yeah.
Like, well, no shit. True. All of us would.
Yeah, that's true. We do a little thing. We do things different.
Yeah. I mean, I know what I would do differently. I don't know if it would change the outcome of my life long term, but I would have done things definitely a little bit different. And that's life. You can always armchair quarterback the, should I have stayed in that job? Should I have gone after that relationship? Should I have done X, Y, or Z? But that's the way the world works.
And maybe as we're wrapping this up, maybe that is the key: is that you have to take every decision that you make. It is a balance between what's logically the right thing to do and what's emotionally or your heart's the right thing to do. And sometimes they might be different. They might be. And for this B, maybe it was better just to sunbathe a little bit. I didn't understand it, but now after talking over this, hey, you're right. There's a logic, there's an emotion, and finding the balance between the two is what keeps most of us kind of going in the right direction.
So as we wrap this up today, if there are 5 words that you could say to 18-year-old you, what will those words be? Hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, all at Liquid Carnage. If you have 5 words of advice for our EP Tom, what would those words be? Hit him up on Instagram and Twitter at liquid_EP.
Hey, thanks for letting me divulge in that. I know the EP is going to give me a hard time for my topic, but I appreciate you letting me come try to digress and analyze why this B did what he did, man.
Hey, man, that's what happens when you're a couple of 40-somethings with a podcast. We get to talk about whatever we want.
I know. The only thing we were missing is a friggin' bourbon, as an old fashioned or something.
Right. The whole premise of this show was to be two guys talking in a bar, and I feel like this is a conversation you would have in a bar.
Exactly.
So that being said, Jason, take us home.
Hey, thanks for listening, everybody. We really appreciate you. That was Scott. I am Jason, and as always, if you never know quite what to say, just have yourself some liquid carnage.